Hello and good evening or good night. How do you say that in English? Like this time? Is it good?
It's evening. No, it's afternoon.
It's afternoon still? Okay.
Yeah.
Hello and good afternoon. This is SKALD TV with Mythodea Insider International Edition. Tonight with Lester and me, Markus. And tonight we're going to talk about last week's German stream, which was mainly about playstyles. So Lester, without further ado, what were you guys talking about last week?
In LARP, you're generally free to play as you want. That's one of the beautiful things about it. It's not a video game. You're not restricted by mechanics or necessarily any rules, which is something that if our Mass noticed in our last stream. You can also just play to play. Of course you can. Whatever we're talking about, these playstyles tonight, it's not something you have to do, it's not something you're forced to do. It's just something that we believe may enhance your gameplay. So we're gonna explain some of the game styles that we support and we try to make gameplay for, and if you get involved with them, then maybe they'll enhance your gameplay. If you don't like them, you don't have to do them. It's not a must, it's just an offer.
Yeah, somebody on Facebook commented about that and said, play to lose, play to struggle. Why don't you just play for fun? Yeah. And basically, we don't want to tell anybody how to play. This is not what this is all about. Yeah. It's more about techniques that you can use to have probably more fun if that is your thing. And also, it's how we design our game, and so if you use those techniques, it will be you will be able to find new angles in game and in the play, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. So you can decide which gameplay principle you want to try out. You can try them all out. We're just saying, these are the offers that are there, and these are some of the playstyles we actively endorse. And if you've never heard of them, give it a shot.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not meant to replace anything.
No.
And we don't want to be evangelizing here and putting anybody or getting them into the good faith or the congregation or however we want to call it.
It's hilarious. In my mind, I'm seeing you with a microphone doing some sort of televangelist a sermon. God damn it! That's what we need for SKALD TV.
Yeah, I don't think so. You don't want to have that. Never mind.
What do the comments say?
The comments say nothing.
Oh.
All right. So that is just the introduction. It's also like if you come to one of our events just to have a good fight or just to have a good party, that's all right as well. But if you want to have the most fun out of it, probably one of the now discussed techniques will work for you. Basically, there was something at Conquest and Life Adventure that already went in a similar direction. What was that?
Okay, so
in the past?
Back in the golden day, the days of yore, long ago, there was a campaign called LARP mit, which means something along the lines of LARP along, which means play together. And it had 2 rules. We took those 2 rules and we added a third one. And this is one of the bases of the playstyles we would like to actively encourage in our community. Rule number 1 is if someone gives you gameplay, gives you an impulse, show some sort of reaction. Rule number 2 is pretty much the mirror of rule number 1. It says don't expect that your counter player will show a reaction. So you don't have to force people to react to your gameplay,
Yeah,
but
also
it would be
don't expect a specific reaction.
Yeah, or a specific reaction. Just it would be nice if you showed a reaction, but it's also good that you don't make someone feel bad because he doesn't show a reaction. Because sometimes you don't want to play that sort of game, or you don't want to play with that person. All of that is fair enough, but it would be great if someone plays with you, you show some sort of reaction. Those are pretty much the two first basic principles. We added a third principle because oftentimes when you have conflict gameplay, it can be quite extreme, and it can seem like the other guy playing at you or the other player playing towards you is mean or perhaps evil or whatever. But our third rule tries to ensure a base attitude that we say, always consider that the person playing with you is in actual fact out of game a nice person who is just trying to give you some conflict game. His conflict game, his evilness, his unnecessary acts of violence or whatever is probably only game motivated. Always try to keep that in the back of your mind. If you're unsure, you can always ask your opposing player, are you sure you want to confront me with this? Is this real? You seem really mean. You can always ask that, but we'll get to that later. There's certain code words you can use to in LARP to ask if something is particularly mean or only in-game.
All right. So the three rules are never. No, that is the second rule. The first rule is.
The first rule is.
I'm getting old.
Really? I thought you were 35.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
The
no?
first rule is.
Okay. The first rule is when someone plays with you, gives you a game impulse, always show a reaction. Yeah, and the second rule is. Okay.
And
the second rule is don't expect a reaction or a specific reaction from someone. And the third rule, which we added, is if someone is being mean, someone's being evil, always expect that this is probably just in-game and out-game. The guy is a nice person. He wants to just bring you some sort of conflict game.
So never mix out-game with in-game.
Yeah, but if you feel unsure, if something is maybe a bit overtly mean, you can always check and ask, this is maybe a bit too harsh for me, can we talk about this? Yeah, but we'll get to that later.
All right, but now we will not only talk about those rules, but we will also talk about different playstyles. So what playstyles are there?
Well, there's 100 different playstyles, of course, and I mean, LARP isn't some sort of academia, but we picked some playstyles that have already been named. We didn't name them. Some of them are from Nordic LARP. Others we just named lapidar, as we say in German. One of the main playstyles that we would like to actively put out there is play to struggle.
Okay, so what does that mean?
So when one plays,
sounds really strugglesome.
It's kind of strugglesome, but that's a little bit the point. So the thing is with play to struggle is you always try to put yourself in a vulnerable situation, because if you think about it, LARP is just a game with gummy swords, foam swords. What can happen, right? You can always win, theoretically, because it's not real.
Yeah.
But in LARP, you want to have an adventure, you want to feel things, and the hero, in the typical hero story, he wins and loses. He finds the mentor teaches him a lesson, then the mentor dies, then the hero takes revenge, but he loses, then he has to train again, and he finally wins, and then he starts his hero journey from the beginning. So you have to have these highs and lows, and with Play to Struggle, that's what we try to promote. We try to actively encourage people to put yourself in a bad situation because it's not real, but you'll feel similar emotions. So if you go into the dark corridors or a dark cave without weapons, or maybe even without light, then you'll feel real fear. You'll have a real experience, or a simulated experience that feels quite real. And we want to encourage that sort of gameplay. And whenever you do things like that, the answer to that should not be death. We don't want to reward this kind of very brave gameplay with death. We want to give you a show. So an overtly dangerous situation may turn out later to be very game enhancing. You may find out something in particular when you go into the dark dungeon. You might have an unexpected conversation with someone, or be taken to the den of the bad guys, who then give you an intense play experience. I don't know, the leader of the undead flesh in that case, and 7 of his major officers standing in front of you and interrogating you, and they give you a message, you in particular, to bring back to your player group, to tell them what awaits them, and all of a sudden you're the hero, you're the great messenger. That's one thing that could come from playing to struggle. Whereas if you didn't struggle, you wouldn't have gone into the dark dungeon. You would have bypassed all of these potential experiences, the simulated fear, and maybe even the encounter. So with Play to Struggle, we always encourage you, take the hard way. It will definitely feel more like an adventure.
Yeah, another example, for example, would be if, don't know, the Heereswacht puts you in jail in Tross. If you simply would be in jail, that would be boring.
Yeah.
But if they do some kind of mistake purposefully to help you escape, that would be for them Play to Struggle.
Yeah.
They also have to catch you again, but it would offer so much more play opportunity for all parties involved.
Yeah, it's true. So the Heereswacht at Conquest is like the city guard, similar to that, and Tross is like the moving city, which follows the army of heroes. And if they see the thief out of game, they see the thief, but they think, okay, if we catch him now, that's the end of the story. But if we look away right now, then that means we can find some players, we can engage them, and we can tell them, oh, I think I saw someone with a red headband. Everybody look out for a red headband. We need to interrogate people of this certain distinct look. And
there are no thieves. That's a totally theoretical scenario we are talking about.
So it's a badly picked scenario. There are no thieves at Conquest. Never happened, ever.
There is also not an organization that organizes those not existent thieves.
No. I mean that is total bullshit. Anyone who says that is, quite frankly, probably an asshole. So playing to struggle is putting yourself into a dangerous situation, which can simulate a real emotion without actually putting you into actual peril. Because in the dungeon, anything that awaits you is definitely something that won't kill you in real life. And don't worry, in-game it also won't kill you, because we don't believe in rewarding courageous gameplay with death. Because death is final, there isn't much to play with after that. We want to give you a scare, we want to give you a fright, we want you to feel like you're struggling, and then we want to give you a success experience.
Okay. What else is there to say about? Can you give more examples about Play to Struggle? I think last week we had somebody call in a Zoom call, a German player.
We had 2 people calling in. We had Frank Steingass. Maybe I'll recount his stories as best I can. Frank, I'll do my best. You did it so well. And I learned a new play style from you, which is how I started as well. Maybe I'll talk about that too. So Frank experienced play to struggle without knowing that he was struggling. Later on, he found out that this is something that a lot of people play with. A lot of people in post-apocalyptic settings play to struggle. He was at a very small con from Mythodea, and he was sitting around having a beer, and then someone approached him and said to him, "Frank, come with us. We need you." And he just said, "Well, you know, I don't have my armor, I don't have my sword. Maybe I should grab a lantern." "There is no time. We need you now." So Frank went into a situation where he didn't know what was happening. That's the first point. And he went unprepared. He didn't have a lantern. It was dark. He didn't have his armor. He didn't have his gear. Anything that he would need to face a threat, he left behind because people engaged him and told him, "Frank, you got to come now." And he just said, "All right, fine, I'll do it. I'll come with you." And they went into a dark dungeon, completely unprepared. And as far as I could tell, Frank was scared as shit. You know, he was afraid of what was going to happen because there was no light, which really enhanced the atmosphere, and he couldn't defend himself even if something happened. In the end, nothing happened. Absolutely nothing, because this wasn't something that players organized. The Augur didn't organize it. It was a wild goose chase. But what he felt was real fear. It was a real adventure. His heart started pumping. He came out of it. Everyone was grabbing each other saying, "Man, that was great," you know? And that's kind of an emotion that play to struggle can awaken in you. And another situation that Frank described was at Sturmwacht, our first and only con this year, sadly, due to Corona. Frank had volunteered himself as a hostage of the Skagen. The Skagen are evil Northmen and Northwomen. And he was marked with a sign on his head, which, if rubbed away, he would turn into smoke by activating a small smoke grenade, which would fill the room with smoke. He would then walk away back to the Skagen, and they would ritualize him back into existence and give him a new sign. So these hostages could be controlled by the Skagen through using this magical mark. Now, if you were not playing to struggle, you would do a simple ritual to get rid of the mark. Half an hour, you do some special magic, people sacrifice things, and give a good show. And yeah, Lavender never happened. Lavender Gate never happened.
Lavender Gate.
So
what was Lavender Gate? I don't know.
Oh, okay. Lavender Gate was
Is that like the Shadow Guild?
No. Lavender Gate was something where last year someone came up with the idea that lavender kills Skagen. And then you had a lot of players running over the field. God knows where they found the lavender. Running around, throwing lavender at Skagen, and the Skagen were like, "What is happening?"
That sounds like Ad Astra.
It's possible. It was funny, but it just led to a lot of confusion.
Yeah.
Anyway, has nothing to do with this particular instance. So at Sturmwacht we had these hostages. They had a sign which, if rubbed away, would turn the hostage into smoke, and the hostage would respawn at the Skagen's camp. So, to recap, if you weren't playing to struggle, you would do a half an hour ritual to get rid of the symbol, which Frank's group tried to do. So they grabbed him, they said, "Frank, we're going to take the symbol away from you." And Frank, because he was briefed by us before, we told him, "You'll have more fun if you continue to have the symbol. We can generate more gameplay for you." Frank said, "Oh, I don't feel so good, I don't feel so good." And they tried to force the symbol off him, so he broke free and he ran outside. He said, I need air, I feel sick." And the symbol was slightly smudged through the ritual, and then he activated his smoke grenade. He disappeared through effects and came back, and he then went back to his group, and instead of thanking them for trying to help him, he said to them, "You have to stop doing this, this doesn't work." we need a proper solution. And the proper solution turned out to be a very long and intense plot which ran through the whole event, which had to be solved to properly get rid of the symbol. Both acts of play would have led to solution. So doing half-an-hour ritual, which again, really fun, very beautiful, would have found a solution, but it would have been a short-lived and it wouldn't have felt like much of a success. Having Frank be the centerpiece of his group, who was always struggling not to die and having a lot of pain, gave his group a focus point to really play about, because a lot of times when you go to a con, you have to save something that you're not invested in. You've never seen it before. But in Frank's case, his group knows him for 15 years. They love him. They don't want to lose him. So over the course of these 3 days, his group had to really play to struggle to keep him alive, something that was important to them. And if Frank had just said, okay, let's get rid of the symbol, then they couldn't have had that very intense experience. One of Frank's group even said, I was ready to stop LARP, but this has shown me a different kind of way to play. That was a great experience. Also, Frank was really moved in the show. So this is play to struggle. We talked a lot about this. Now, what other play styles are there to contrast it with, or to play along with it, you know? So for those at home trying to play drinking games, every time you hear the word play, you can have a drink, because we will say the word play a lot.
Yeah.
So another play style is play to lose. This is a play style that a lot of NSC factions favor. What it encompasses is that when you're a battle NSC, it's not about winning. You don't go out there to try to beat the players, you go out there to tell a story. So a lot of battle NSCs will lose and lose and lose and lose and lose, and keep respawning, coming back and lose. They will run against the player fronts, they will fight epic duels, and they will lose to make the players seem the hero. So NSCs are born to die, and they play to lose. They enhance the player's experience, and that's another form of play style that we already have at Conquest.
Yeah.
So they play not for their own experience, they play for the player's experience. The player is enhanced. Then again, a lot of NSCs in German, we have a word for this, it's NSC Ehre, NSC honor. It is an honor to lose, it's an honor to play, to lift your players. It's weird. Like you take great pride in losing, and losing well, dying beautifully.
So basically, the winning is to give a good scene or show or experience to your fellow player or to your opponent, you know.
Yeah.
And not by literally defeating him. So the winning comes from a different experience, or the experience comes from a different...
Like a good example for this, the knight wearing 30 kilograms of armor fights the little boy only with, you know, a small cloth and a shield and maybe even a wooden sword. But then the knight swings his sword so slowly that the boy can drop underneath the sword and then cut the tendons in the leg, just where there's no armor, and the knight of course falls to his knees and can be executed by the kid. These are like fights that we had at Kids Town oftentimes in the past. Scenes like that. Of course the knight could have just kicked the kid in the chest and won, but that's not what the NSC is supposed to do. The NSC is supposed to look like a threat, and when you overcome this threat, you have to feel like the hero. So it's not easy, you know. You have to look evil. You have to be a badass, but you have to lose, and you have to lose well. It's not easy.
Yeah. All right. This is play to struggle, play to lose. More of this after the break. We go in for a short break, 5-minute breaks now. We will be coming back after the break with what was the other? And play for drama and play for lift. See you after the break. Bye bye. Hello, here we are again with SKALD TV Mythodea Insider tonight with Lester and me, Markus. Before we get further into it, 2 things about our channel. First, toss a coin to your Twitcher. I waited for that one for the mother of all bad jokes. If you have Amazon Prime, you can link your Amazon account to your Twitch account and thereby become Twitch Prime. And if you are Twitch Prime, you can give us a free subscription. So for you, it's free once a month, a 1-month subscription. And this gives us a little money and also helps us with the statistics. So thank you in advance for that. The other thing is, if you have an idea what we could do here in the channel, what we desperately need to present here in the channel, or if you have a character you want to introduce, or you want to introduce your group, or you want to show your orga or your project, give us a mail, give us a notice, just send us a mail at tv@skald.com. Eva, our booker, will contact you and we will find a place here in the stream. You don't have to come to Frankfurt all of the time. You can also, because the studio here is in Frankfurt, Germany, you can also join us via Zoom, so not a problem. Just give us a mail, tv@skald.com. So today there were some questions.
Uh-oh. Are we gonna get grilled?
Yeah, it's like really a Ninja Meister says, ask Lester why he's so damn sexy. I
don't know how to answer that. I don't feel sexy. I feel slightly nauseous and sweaty. I don't know. I feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, and huh?
I just feel more uncomfortable because now it's this awkward silence.
Yeah, this is awkward.
Next question.
We have to go on here.
Yeah.
Then another user here says, say Stab von Feli. I think that is what it is.
I think it's English and means stab.
Stab, alright.
It's a murder threat.
It's a murder threat.
Yeah.
You get that
the
often?
act of stabbing someone.
Oh, all right. I did not know this. This is okay.
That's a new one, being threatened online, live. It's pretty cool.
Then then there's this, if you're in LARPing, probably that happens every once in a while, but
yeah, being threatened is the best. That's playing to struggle.
Exactly. Okay. Then here, for Markus, how much play or load play to struggle is present in German LARP? I play in Italy, and here in massive LARPs is quite different than at Conquest. What do you say? How many people would play this play styles in Germany? Is it like a majority thing, or is it just a few people doing it?
I really think it depends on the scene. I think there's a ton of people at Conquest already playing to struggle. It's not something that we invented in any way, shape or form. It's been out there for a while. We just think it's an interesting concept and we want to promote it. We think it's an interesting one, but we we believe, and the thing is, there's no real statistics in LARP, that this is something that's very popular among Nordic LARPers, which is a certain play style, but it's also very popular in post-apocalyptic LARP, where you play with a lack of resources, you play with a ton of pain and strife. So there's a lot of playing to struggle in post-apocalyptic LARP. It really depends on the group, but we as an Augur definitely want to actively promote playing to struggle. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I think it does. I think there is some confusion here. We always use the term anarchy, but actually that isn't an English term. It's called,
Yeah, so this is my fault. I'm sorry. This is supposed to be international. I've been saying anarchy, which is Nicht-Spieler Charakter, but I should be saying. I should have been saying
there
NPC.
should be more German accent in here.
Mehr deutschen Akzenten, ja.
So concrete, this would mean Nicht-Spieler Charakter.
That sounds beautiful. It's, I guess this is why they call German the the language of romance.
Yes.
Yeah. No, but
it is known.
What I should have been saying is NPC, non-player character. That would have been correct for our international stream. I apologize. Next.
This guy called Ninja Meister, he's bugging us somehow. Could you please explain the hero's journey?
We started with the hero's journey somewhere in the beginning when we were talking about struggle. Playing struggle does not mean that you lose throughout the whole game and never have any good moments. It just means to put yourself in a bad situation, as a hero would. So if you think, for instance, of John McClane in Die Hard, that guy gets punched in the face all the time. He's always in terrible situations. He's in dents. He's covered in blood and all sorts of grime. He's not always the guy standing on the podium being applauded. He puts himself in terrible situations because he's a hero. Or for instance, Luke Skywalker, who starts as a nobody, has to go on a long journey, finds his master, Yoda. I don't know if we're allowed to say this or if we're going to be sued by Disney. Then he learns a bunch, Yoda dies, he goes out and he... yeah, so if you haven't seen Star Wars, I'm sorry. You're a bit late to the party. But yeah, Luke goes on a long journey. He tries to fight the Empire, and he goes through a number of highs and lows, puts himself in a ton of very dangerous and stupid situations, if I can frankly say so. But it takes the viewer on a journey. You know, you feel that fear and anxiety, and you really feel those highs as well. Because after every low, there comes a high. You get taken prisoner. You find out a vital piece of information for the plot. You go back to your friends. Everyone's like, "Where have you been? How are you doing? We were so scared." "No, I'm okay. But I have to tell you." And all of a sudden, you're center stage. So playing to struggle takes you from the worst lows to the highest highs. And that's really what defines that playstyle. And it goes hand in hand with the hero's journey. A hero also plays to struggle.
Yeah, and basically you can only be a hero if you overcome problems.
It's true.
And the bigger the problems were, the harder, the bigger hero you become. And so if you don't have any problems, you most likely aren't a hero either. You know?
Yeah. Then you've just inherited that success. Yeah, I guess so.
All right. We talked about play to lose, and that mainly our NSCs are doing it. Are there other applications? Are you like, even if you're not an NSC, could this be fun?
Yes, in certain ways, of course. with a lot of my characters, even aside from the NSCs, I try to play to lose. I try to write myself a backstory which creates 100,000 different problems for me. Those problems, because I'm a generous person, I try to share with everyone. So I put myself out there, and I put my problems out there. I drop my secrets wherever I can. My character, of course, meanwhile, is suffering from a wide plethora of negative emotions: sadness, depression, fear, anxiety. Meanwhile, people out there are extorting him, threatening him, making his life even worse. But that then just gives me more impulses to play this sadness, which in turn may engage other players to try to help me out. So in that way, that's, for instance, my Aderon character. That's pretty much what I just described. It's my Aderon character who doesn't struggle so much in the sense that he has any sort of highs. It's just lows. It's just lows.
Yeah, this was an extra troubled backstory that he had.
We've talked about that a bunch of times, even in the English streams. If anyone's interested, drop it in the chat. We can refresh it, but I don't think we have to.
No, we don't. Okay. Okay, so that is the play to lose. What does play to drama mean? Like what do we mean by that?
Well, playing to drama is to, in some ways, a lot of these playstyles, they're similar to each other, or they're components of one another. And playing to drama is trying to create a big scene out of certain things. So it goes hand in hand with a bunch of other principles we have, like play your special day or tell your secret. So you over-exaggerate things. You don't play things quietly behind locked doors. And if there's a locked door, you make sure that 5 people can listen at the door. And if you have a secret, maybe you tell it a bit too loud. And if people find out your secret, maybe you're very shocked because you already knew that the person knows your secret because you dropped it way too loud, or you dropped the letter by accident, right? But instead of going, oh yeah, well, I knew you would figure that out, you go like, oh no, how could you find this out? And this will then just generate a louder scene and draw more people in, because in play to drama, you don't try to engage one person, you try to engage as many as you can. You try to pull as many people in to your gameplay offer as you can, and people can decide, well, okay, this is interesting, or they can say, well, this does not interest me, I'll go and do something else. But you want to try to market your gameplay offer.
Mm-hmm. So it's more about creating an even bigger experience for even more people. Is that how you could characterize this, or how?
Yeah, also, but just it's in a way it's also giving a certain meaning to something, because LARP it's not real, it's a simulation, but you have to try to over exaggerate certain things so that they feel real to other people, and it may feel a bit weird at first, but the more you do it and the more people play with you, the more natural it will feel. And you start to be heavily invested in something that isn't real, and that's the whole point of LARP. You wanna be invested or experience adventures, even if they're not real. So these techniques just help you immerse yourself a bit more.
Okay, so how would you say play for drama found application in Sturmwacht, like when we did Sturmwacht? How was this applied there? What techniques were applied? What scenes would you pinpoint for that?
These specific techniques, how to utilize this sort of playstyle, come from theatre. Ruth taught us a lot about this over the course of the year. I've experienced it at a numerous amount of cons. One of these strong techniques in theater is called echoing. So you have something that happens, and then you have people standing around and they will repeat what has been said, and they'll say, what happened? Oh, didn't you hear? He said that the lord of the castle, he had slept with the concubine of the king, and so forth. And then that gets echoed further and further through the crowd, and it engages a wider amount of players. And in the end, hopefully, the player at the end of the circle standing around will say, I was there, I heard it, I saw it. And in actual fact, that person at the back of the circle didn't see anything. They were just taken along on the ride by what was being echoed toward back to the last row of people.
So it's also about applying theatric techniques.
That's one of them.
Theater techniques in your gameplay. What else did you guys do?
So there's a bunch of other ones that you can use. Again, a lot of them, they grip into each other, for instance, or they connect into each other like a finely tuned machine. You also have, for instance, crowd control. For instance, if the bad guy approaches and he has 10 people behind him, just 11 people in front of you, and you have 200 players, instead of killing them immediately and being done with the problem and foregoing the whole scene, you'll have people in the player group who will try to create distance and allow the bad guy to speak, give him the stage, allow him to bring forth his problem and his plot. Because if you killed him immediately, well, then the story would be over, and he would have no stage. He couldn't create any drama. So one of the mechanics that helps you to play to drama is also this crowd control, managing the crowd through players who try to allow the counterpart their say.
Okay, there was a question in the chat. What about play to struggle, lose, or drama when playing a bad guy style character? Like you play the bad guy. Is that would you always also play to struggle and play to drama, and how would you do?
That's also easy. It's similar to what I said about playing to lose in a way. For instance, as the bad guy, you disable your foe, you take away his sword, you disarm him, and then you let him pick up the sword again. You could have just killed him, of course, but it would have been so much better if you allow him to reach for his sword and to continue the fight. And in the end, the hero still wins. And everyone from the outside would say, "What a dumbass! Why did he let him grab the sword? He could have just killed him."
It's this TV trope where the villain always tells his story before he finally fails for some reason to kill the...
Or when you play to struggle as the bad guy, we had something like that with the Skagen, for instance. So at Sturmwacht we had 4 tableaus which could be connected to find out the secret of the castle. And the Skagen had 2 of these, and instead of hiding them or burying them in their camp, they had the first tableau in the ritual circle, which is outside of the camp. Completely stupid, but they of course wanted the players to see it. And instead of hiding it in front of the circle, every time the players came out, the Skagen would lift the tableau up and they would carry it around and move it somewhere else, so that the players instinctively knew, okay, that thing is important, perhaps we should investigate. So they managed to create problems for themselves. An intelligent bad guy, of course, wouldn't put one of the main objects of desire on display in that way.
That's true. Some of the a normal player now would have gone like, I simply go there and I nick it, you know. But some players did something else. What did they do?
Okay, this has nothing to do with play to struggle in a way.
I just like the story.
Yeah,
but it's kind of struggling as well. Yeah.
There were two funny stories about the tableaus. They're funny because so the first guy who figured out the tableau, which was on display, was a scholar with a telescope who was deciphering the tableau from afar. So a sniper scholar in a way. That was hilarious. And then after he had figured out the tableau and he transcribed it completely and given it to the throne room where it was being worked on by other players, in the meantime, some street hoodlums decided they were going to try and steal it, even though it wasn't necessary anymore. And I remember just coming back from SLing in costume something else. All of a sudden, these four guys fly down the staircase holding this tableau. One of them breaks his leg in game because the tableau falls on his leg. They're on the floor, they're laughing, yeah, we did it! And I'm just standing in front of them saying, oh wow, you found it! And they were like, yeah, we did it, man, we did it! We're gonna be so popular with the prince. And then we go up to the prince. One of them can't walk anymore because his leg's broken. They're all really scared, and the prince is standing in front of them, and he says, we sort of have the translation already. We don't really need it, but here's a coin. So they really struggled. They didn't get any reward other than heart pounding. They got a favor, of course, because they were so brave. We let them have a favor, and the favor they exchanged for in the end wasn't money, it wasn't land, it wasn't an artifact. They asked to hang up their banner in the tavern, and so we asked the owner of the tavern if that would be okay, and they did that. And so their reward for struggling to put themselves in harm's way, get the tablet, wasn't money or an artifact or land. It was just the experience, really. If you
it was a great scene as well.
Yeah, I mean I enjoyed that way too much. It was hilarious. It was so cool.
Yeah, great. Okay, that is the play to drama part. Let's go on. Yeah, what is about? We talked about that already, but let's talk about it again because it's quite a important part of our play style and play philosophy. It's play to lift.
Yeah, well, this is
probably even more important than play to struggle, play to lose, and play to drama. I think it's the most important, like the corner piece of what we're doing.
That's actually quite interesting. You're saying that certain play styles are more interesting, and maybe I'll ask you later about what you enjoyed at Sturmwacht, what kind of play styles. But yeah, play to lift is an important aspect of the play styles that we try to promote. It means you try to give people their stage. So if the queen arrives, it would be great if everybody addressed her as Your Majesty. Or if the lone elf comes into the village and everybody plays as if it's a very exotic and special and magical being, that would be great. But instead, if the queen comes in and then you just lean over, you're like, how you doing? That wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't be just to the character, to the role. Same thing with the elf. If the elf just gets dragged into the tavern and you start drinking beer, that may be a bit weird. It's not very much archetype specific. So you try to really play towards the favor of someone else, and if someone is experiencing something, you try to go along. You try to enhance their gameplay, and that may mean that you will lose. But then in doing so, you'll enrich the person who you're playing with's experience, and that person may do the same thing for you. So if you don't take center stage sometimes, there's a high chance other people will lift you to center stage in turn.
Yeah, and it's more about that you that you play to give other people a good scene, and not to have the best scene yourself, which ironically will result in you having one awesome scene after another, because it's give and take kind of.
Yeah, exactly. This is something as well that I said about NSC Honor playing to lose. You have one great scene after the other because you really take passion and pride in the other person's scene. And when we talk about playing to lift, for instance, this is a kind of funny thing that you see a lot in duels. You have two people who like each other and they start a fight, and everyone wants to lift the other player and wants to say, you have to win, you have to beat me now. And the other guy's like, no dude, you gotta win. And then it's just like this constant fight about who's gonna lose and who's gonna lift the other person. But you don't only have that in fights, you can have that in other scenes as well. Lifting can occur in many different situations. For instance, the quiet guy in the throne room starts speaking. Someone says, you don't have a say here, and then the prince says, no, he must speak. I want this man to speak. And then the whole room is quiet. The whole room lifts this guy to center stage, this nobody in game, and he gets to speak, and he has the prince's ear, and the whole room is lifting him. They're all playing to lift him just through silence. That's how easy it can be.
Yeah. And it's probably also about taking cues about who's the person on the other side.
Yeah.
You know, so from the costume, so what are they trying to portray, and playing along with it. Could you give examples for that?
Well, yeah. I mean, another example is, for instance, if you have some sort of terribly disfigured mutant who obviously seems putrid with 100,000 sicknesses, you wouldn't approach him and say, hey buddy, how's it going? You would probably say, oh my god, look what is approaching! And of course you're being mean to him. What ugly monstrosity is coming? And then the guy's probably thinking, yeah, I'm pretty ugly. You know, he would feel like people are lifting up his role, taking him serious. That's one costume input that you could play with. Or for instance, when Ateron and the Skagen were fighting, they were lifting each other constantly. So the Aterons were saying to the player base, they were saying, oh, the Skagen, they have destroyed our homeland for 7 years. They are such strong fighters. Their women are hardy, and their women, their men, they, I don't know what men do. Anyway, the Skagen
row their boat.
They row boats. Their men row boats really hard, and anyway, then the Skagen would say among each other while players were close by in proximity, they would say, I hope tomorrow we can succeed, for the Ateron warriors are quite sturdy indeed. They fight with honor and they have tough armor. You know, they would lift each other. They would not say, tomorrow, easy peasy, we'll beat them. They would portray some sort of respect towards one another, and then everyone seeing this or hearing this will feel like these are actual characters to believe in, because none of these characters are really good fighters, rarely so. Oftentimes they're just they're LARPers. You know, they're not Spartacus or they're not Hercules or anything like that. They're just LARPers, and it's great if people lift each other up to certain points where you start to believe that they're actually great fighters.
Okay, I have to admit I actually didn't watch last week's stream.
It's okay.
But there's a question about can you tell us the cool poison story from the German stream? So that means last week's stream, which actually we tried to tell what happened last week.
Yeah, that's a great example. Ruth and Julian were at a very small convention as players, and none of them had inputs from the outside in what to do particularly. No one told them you should struggle or whatever. And what happened was that Ruth put some colored poison, some colored liquid into Julian's drink. And Julian was playing a nobleman. He saw this, and he, in spite of that, he thought, okay, I have two courses of actions. I can either grab Ruth now, and I can say, what have you done? Which would be a very short scene, probably resulting in Ruth's death. And the other option he had was to drink the poison and see what happens. He had no idea what would happen. But he thought, well, if I drink whatever she's put in here, maybe this will result in a very, long and drawn out gameplay. Let's see what happens. He didn't know what the result would be. So he drank it. And he thought he would die, first of all. So he had that fear of losing his character. And he continued to struggle after that, because that wasn't the end of it. Ruth, of course, was struggling by poisoning him very obviously. Anybody could have caught her, but people decided they would look away. Then Julian struggled by drinking the poison, and finally he continued on because he started playing as if he was woozy. He didn't die, but he was woozy. He was slurring his words as if he was drunk, and he couldn't concentrate properly anymore. He played a very susceptible character, something that his character usually isn't. And what he did, instead of going to bed and waiting for the poison to wear off, he started intensely playing with people and putting him into even more vulnerable situations, making things even more complicated for himself, spilling secrets about himself willy-nilly. So what he did was terrible for his character. I mean, his character had tons of issues afterwards, but at the same time, he had an in-game connection now to Ruth's character. He had a nemesis, perhaps, and also through dropping secrets and making these grave errors, he had other people who could approach him now, try to help him with his problems or extort him for what he'd done. And in the end, it turned out, if you watched the German stream, Julian seemed quite happy about that, which is...
that was, which event was it, again?
That was Nantou.
Nantou, what event is that?
It's a small low power event in a Japanesque setting. It's not Japan. It's a fantasy world which orientates itself around that type of culture. But it's very serious, and it's an interesting concept. There's very little fighting. It's more about social problems, and anyone who manages to participate, find it online and find a space, because it's usually booked very quickly.
It's done by the great Uli. Shout
Uli,
out to Uli if you're watching.
Yamanishi. That's where I learned Play to Struggle, actually, was at one of Uli's cons. Uli and Ruth, they together did Al-Bacha. That's where I learned how to struggle, how to put myself into dangerous situations and have a more intense experience for it.
So there was a question in the chat that we will answer after the break. The question was, how did Julian know what to play, how he was poisoned? Was it up to him or was it to somebody else? We will talk about that after the break. Bye. Okay, here we are again, SKALD TV, Mythodea Insider with Lester and me, Markus. Before the break, we stopped with a question, but before we ask that question, I have to tell you something. Lester confided in me and he said he's really nervous today and he never felt that bad in the stream. But why is that, Lester?
Well, obviously I'm...
On the spot.
As many people know, I'm a celebrity, and I never feel any sort of stress at all. And it's not like I've been pushed into some sort of weird streaming format against my will. But what a lot of people can't see at home is the gaping moor above us, because we are sitting at a building site. What you can't hear, perhaps, also is running pipes that are leaking. Markus, would you care to describe the sound that is above us?
Yeah, basically we had water damage and we had to remove parts of the ceiling in order to fix it. And you constantly hear noise of human feces running through pipes. But luckily you don't hear that at home.
Anyway.
Okay, where were we? Okay, we were talking about the poisoning scene with Julian, and the question was it up to him, or how did he decide what the poison did to him?
Okay, so I was not there, but I was told the way it worked was he got the impulse that he was poisoned by seeing what happened. I mean, the drink was discolored. In case he hadn't seen it, Ruth would have nudged him and told him, by the way, I put a poison in your drink. And it was her decision to say, well, a poison. And Julian could then decide what he wanted to play. And that's part of LARP mit, LARP along, our 3 golden rules. He could decide what reaction he would show. It's also at our events in Mythodea, if it were, for instance, a death poison, still Julian could decide what he wanted to do, because we have a rule for the person afflicted. That person can always decide what happens. He doesn't have to choose death. He can say, oh, I narrowly escaped, or this poison had no effect on me. But it would be better if he showed some sort of reaction. He was violently ill, or for instance, in Julian's case, he was slightly sloshed and started telling all his secrets and had stomach cramps. He showed some sort of reaction, but he didn't die. And that's something that we would like to encourage, because the person poisoning him, Ruth in this case, of course wanted him to show some sort of reaction, and the action he showed was adequate because it led to a ton of new gameplay and a lot of more interaction and connection between characters. That was play to struggle done right.
Yeah, and along with that, so if he is actually dying from the poison, it's up to him. This goes down to something we call the victim rule. What is the victim rule? Can you explain that?
I was trying to explain it. I said the person afflicted, but the victim rule, which would have been the proper translation, I should have known this because I'm a native speaker, but me not so good with the words. The victim rule says that the victim of any effect imposed on him can decide what happens. So if you get stabbed in the gut, then you don't necessarily have to die. You can hold your stomach and you can crawl back to camp and be healed. If someone slits your throat, well, again, you can hold your throat and you can say, oh, I just managed to survive. Or if you're poisoned with death poison, you can say, oh, I had an overdose and I threw it all up and it only heavily damaged my liver. Something like that. Or you can just say, you know what, it didn't happen. Like if someone tries to smash your head with a hammer, you can say, well, it didn't happen because this is my character. I've invested so much time into this. I've invested so much money into this, and this is not the end for my story. I want my story to end.
It did happen, but it didn't kill me. That's what you mean.
Yeah, but if the other guy then says, yeah, but it did kill me, it did kill you, you can say, no, listen, okay, you gave me an impulse, but I decided to take it differently because
this like always show a reaction, but never expect a reaction or a specific reaction.
Exactly, it's that. So if someone says you're dead, then you can say, well, I don't really want that. Because a lot of times you have people trying to fix OT problems with in-game solutions, which is always unhealthy. So you have a problem with someone, so you try to kill his character. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's good gameplay. That can just be malicious and damaging. And in that case, you can just say, you know what? I don't want to play. I'm sorry. This is not what I want to do. And that's your choice. That's definitely your freedom to do that.
This is especially designed for games that not like, unless, for example, we have a big PvP event in Germany. It's called Drachenfest.
Yeah.
They have a respawning mechanism for players. So basically, if you die, you go through some kind of limbus and then you're back. But for example, at Conquest of Mythodea or in Mythodea in general, we don't have that. It's basically if you're dead, you're dead.
Yeah.
That's what the victim rule is for. That nobody can kill your character against your will.
Yeah.
But the character dies when you want it to die.
Actually, it's interesting you mentioned the Limbus at Drachenfest. A lot of people at Drachenfest, because I used to visit Drachenfest, they used to say, you know what, you can just kill me. I'll just go to the Limbus. You know, there is no consequence to me acting out and playing, doing something stupid. Because I'll just come back anyway. Yeah. But a lot of people, in response to the respawn mechanic, started playing to struggle. They would say, well, coming back is pain, and it's not sure that I'll come back. So I don't want to die. I don't know what they'll do to me in the Limbus. Who knows? So they didn't need to do that because out of game they knew, I'm coming back anyway. But they decided to struggle with the idea of death. And the idea with a greater magical power bringing them back and having an influence on their character, and that just gave it a whole new atmosphere. And you, despite being able to respawn and not being able to die, you decided to try not to die anyway because you gave yourself an objective to be afraid of. Which was quite clever. A lot of players did that. I really like that.
So everything is actually just an opportunity for play, and you should view it as such because that's what it's all about. It's getting a lot of scenes and experiences and a lot of play out of your character.
Yeah. To you at home who have now taken a drink every time we've said play. And to the people saying that sometimes you can just play to play or play to have fun. We don't want to force these principles on anyone. Anyone can play the way they want. We're just giving you an idea of some play styles that maybe you haven't tried yet. And we're trying to show some of the positive aspects about them. And it'd be interesting to know if you try it out. Like Frank Steingass, who was completely surprised.
Yeah, exactly. And okay, I think we covered play to lift pretty intensely. So another thing we would like to encourage, but as always, it's something we endorse. It's something we encourage to get the most fun out of our event or the best experience out of our event. But nobody has to do it. Is serious gaming. What do we mean by that if we say that?
Serious gaming is, for instance, you're in a very serious scene. Obviously, there is an ominous threat. There are 20, 30, 100 evil enemies around you, and then you decide to start doing a song and dance and make fart jokes, that wouldn't be serious gaming. That would be ruining the scene for everyone, because you would not take anyone serious. But serious gaming is trying to simulate or play along with a serious situation. It's only game. It's not real. But when you're playing seriously, you try to take things into account. You try to really play along. You know, this is real danger, so I should play that I am in danger. Or it can also be the other way around in certain ways. You know, for instance, if you're the bad guy, you don't start making stupid jokes. You know, you try to make the scene more intense. Goes hand in hand with consequent gaming, where you try to always stay in character, like the knight who will always burn witches will never be friends with a witch. In a way, this is a segue to interesting gaming, which is sort of a counterpart to consequent gaming.
Yeah.
Yeah,
probably
sorry.
we get into this later, but one thing, or we get into this later, but one thing is that doesn't mean that we don't want also funny scenes or hilarious things, but the problem is if it's a setting which can be also fun, that is supposed to be like more comedic, then probably serious play would be playing comedic, you know?
Yeah.
But if it's a serious setting, we should respect that and treat it as such.
It's kind of reading the room. So if you're at a in real life, for instance, if you're at a funeral, you don't take out a boombox and start a party. You try to be quiet. You try to respect the dead, and you try to respect the bereaved. And as in game, it's like you have in-game funerals, you have in-game dark scenes. You try to play along, so you try to take it serious. You try to take your own gameplay serious, and you try to take your fellow gamers' experience seriously, and try to not, break the scene.
And mixes in with this play to lift. Yeah, you take the cues from your from the person on the other end, and you try to run with it as serious and as respectful as you can.
Yeah, you just generally try to enhance the experience, because when we go to LARP, we want to forget that we have an office job, or we have a broken marriage. Okay, that's pretty dark. I'm not married, by the way.
I think none in this room is
no. So whenever we go to LARP, we try to forget the real world. We try to immerse ourselves, like when we read a book or watch a movie. We try to immerse ourselves in this fantasy world, and it doesn't help if we don't take the appropriate scenes seriously. We just do something completely banal and wrong and weird. I mean, you're free to do that, but as we said, all playstyles are free. You don't have to take the game serious, but I'm imagining if 100 players are playing a funeral and you start doing a song and a dance, people are going to be a little bit pissed off.
Yeah, that is exactly it, and it would destroy their immersion. Yeah, it's like as always, what we say is like immersion is like sleeping, so things can wake you up very easily, and once you're woken up, it's hard to fall asleep again. Yeah, and that's the same with immersion. So we better be respectful about it and try not to ruin.
It's a precious good.
Yeah.
So always try to, in serious gaming, you try to take other people's characters serious, and you also try to take other people's immersion very serious.
Yeah, exactly. That is sometimes the fine line, because for some people the immersion is like we're sleeping. For some people have a very heavy sleep and nothing can wake them up, and other people are quite easily disturbed. So as always, you cannot make it right for everybody, but you should try.
Yeah, as a player, you can always choose what to do. Again, we wouldn't advise you to do a comedy show at a funeral, but if you really want to do that, if you want to do something funny, then maybe go to a tavern, and you don't go to the funeral. You try to read the crowd, try to read the scene.
Yeah, exactly. One question here is, how's the best way to handle somebody like that? Do you make guards, take them away somewhere? Does someone fight them, or do you get meta, or do you meta it and have a GM pull them aside? What's the best course of action?
It's regarding
if somebody like breaks the immersion for people, like there's a funeral and he's joking around. I don't know. Generally, that doesn't happen, I would say. We tried. That's basically why we are doing this. We try to bring it out there that this is something we'd like to encourage and that it's actually a thing. But what's your take on that?
We definitely try to not have game masters intervene. That's always the last resort, because again, we also, as the game designers, take immersion very seriously. We try to have our playmakers, designated characters who try to further play and try to further along the game. We try to have them steer these situations. So again, we're at the funeral, someone's deciding we're going to have a party. A playmaker, or maybe even just a player who doesn't appreciate this kind of gameplay, approaches the disrupting player and says, I encourage you strongly to leave, otherwise me and my 20 friends will break your legs in game. And that's of course a threat, an in-game threat.
Or give him some kind of cue.
And if
an in-game cue.
Yeah, an in-game cue, of course. And then if the person still won't leave and he says, okay, well then let's have a fight, well then they can have a fight. That may even further the game. But if the person is really only there out of game to disrupt play, then of course you can say, man, you're ruining our game, please leave. We choose to not have you disrupt our gameplay. That's always your final possibility to do so. But I've never experienced it anywhere where you couldn't sort of communicate in-game that this is really not appropriate right now. In last resort, you can always go OT or call an SL in uniform, in costume. It's always a possibility. But again, you would only be disrupting your own immersion if you went that far.
Yeah, there's one last resort as well. So it's give them the stink eye.
There's actually, can I talk about OT input through ET?
Yeah.
Let's go to break.
Okay, we can. Exactly. It's our man behind the controls, Tom. Say hello, Tom. And our production assistant Emma, who are the team behind the cameras today, they just give us a cue that it's break time again. So basically, after the break, we will be talking about.
Well, we'll talk about some cues that you can give in game without disrupting too much, and we'll also talk about some hurdles to playing to struggle. Yeah.
Okay, see you after the break. We are on. Okay, hello. Here we are again with SKALD TV tonight. Lester and me, Markus. Some things about our stream. I would really want to do this dad joke. You know, it's like
do it.
Do
it.
Toss a coin to your Twitcher.
I'm trying to find something to throw at you, but it's too far away.
If you have an Amazon Prime account, you can link that to your Twitch account and then your Twitch Prime. And with Twitch Prime, you can give us a free subscription, so it costs you nothing. once a month. This subscription is valid for a month. And this will help us a little bit financially and at the same time for the statistics. Thanks a lot in advance for that. We are very grateful. The second thing is, if you have an idea what we should present, could present, what you would like to present here on the stream, or you have a character you want to have portrayed, or you want to portray your group or your project or your convention or whatever it is you want to see happening here on the stream, please don't feel shy to approach us. Simply send us a mail at tv@skald.com, tv@skald.com. That's the email address. Our booker, Eva, will contact you and will make an appointment. We are really looking forward to that.
I'm looking forward to maybe getting a mail from this Mike guy. He seems heavily invested.
Yeah, and he thinks Tom is handsome. I mean, he is.
Yeah. I don't know why I hesitated. Of course he's handsome.
Yeah, it's like the all right, where did we stop? It was about
it was talking about having commands also when you feel OT uncomfortable, when the struggle may get too much, or when the threat level is too much. How can you OT communicate this to someone without breaking the immersion? And there's a great command for this that we want to be using at Mythodea events, at the large events that we organize, which in German is "O Mutter," which translates to "Oh Mother." So this is the command word. You say "Oh Mother," and then you add something, like for instance, "Oh Mother, I feel a little bit scared," and then that may sound quite immersive, but your other player should, through the campaign of "Oh Mother," understand after a while, okay, this is actually too much for the other person. We want to promote this in SKALD on our website.
I always don't know if I think in German it sounds way better, like "Oh Mutter." Yeah,
but that's just because German is the most beautiful language in the world. It's just so quiet and smooth and relaxing to the ear.
Yeah. All right. So what is it about? So why do you say that? Why is it needed?
Yeah. So if you have something like, for instance, you've been roped to a post and you've been stuck there for 2 hours in the sun. But people are saying, okay, he or she is struggling really well, you know, but the person's actually struggling and not feeling great, not having a lot of fun. Then you can say, "Oh Mother, I wish to be free of these shackles." Then that would mean in OT, okay, this person doesn't want to do this gameplay anymore. Let's find a clever and quick in-game reason to get her out of the shackles and release her back to the player groups. Or for instance, someone has a fight and then the fight is getting a bit too hard, or maybe too, the other person is hitting too hard with the foam weapon. You can say, "Oh Mother, what force? I wish you wouldn't hit so hard." It's an OT command wrapped in in-game language.
And it kind of manifested itself a little bit. So it became almost like a common thing in German LARP.
Yes.
To do that. And it's like a safe word. That's probably the closest how you could say that. It's like an in-game safe word that signals, yeah, I'm feeling out of game uncomfortable about the situation. Please change something.
Yeah, but the great thing about these code words that have come about in German LARP, and I'm sure they're in international LARP as well in different forms, is they're said in such a way, very clearly, "Oh Mother," that the other person knows that this is an OT command, but at the same time, it doesn't rip you out by saying like, "Yo, dude, can you quit hitting me this hard?" it's sorry. It's not as bad as that. It feels slightly in-game. It doesn't tear you out of immersion completely. You're being very careful with your counterpart's immersion. You're taking care not to break their immersion.
Yeah. Why is Emma laughing at us? That is like uncalled for, Emma.
Am I profusely sweating?
All right. This is that. So there is this kind of safe word situation. You can decide on your own thing in your own game. So it doesn't have to be "Oh Mother" if that is something you feel doesn't work for you. But in most of German LARPs, this is like an established thing. So if you put "Oh Mother" or "Oh Mutter" in front of something, that means I try to give you a out-game cue here because I'm feeling uncomfortable about the situation out time. But I still don't want to break your immersion. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've never had a moment where "Oh Mother" didn't work. When you're being grilled by the sun, you're really thirsty, you've been sitting there for ages, playing to struggle, some sort of captive. Every time I said, "Oh Mother, I'm so thirsty," I've always been given water. So I've never been disappointed by this mechanic. It's a great mechanic.
Yeah, Mareike asks, can you use "Oh Mother" also to escalate a situation further?
Indeed, you can. We spoke about that. Like, for instance, you could say things like, "Oh Mother, why are we still speaking? Let our weapons do the talking." To signal, okay, you're being very careful with me. I appreciate that, but I really want to have a fight now. This could be a lot more brutal. This could be a lot more violent. You've judged me wrong. I appreciate that you're going slow with me, but let's have a fight. Let's escalate. Yeah. So yeah, you can use "Oh Mother" to immersively signal your counterpart that you would like to have more intense play. That's also okay. Yeah. Yep. That's a good question. Yep. Or question. I don't know.
Okay. We had an interesting point, and I think we didn't go further on that before. So in a lot of LARPs, people are very proud or feel it's a good idea to have consequent play. So what does that mean, and why is it probably not always a good idea?
Okay, so playing consequently is great. I mean, you want to stay true to your character. We spoke about this last week when we had an English stream. So the knight will always be honorable, and the knight will always follow his or her ambitions and values, of course. But if you keep doing that, then your gameplay will be very one-sided, and it can be quite a valuable experience to fail and do something completely against the logic of your character, or against everything that your character holds dear. For instance, last week we had the example with knights, where we said, what about the knight who was burning witches decides that, well, this woman who's been said to be a witch, I have sympathy, and falls in love with that person. That would be completely counter to anything he would do. He wouldn't be playing consequently, but he would be able to experience a whole new storyline, a whole new set of emotions that he would never be able to experience with this character otherwise. That's why we try to promote consequent play as well as interesting play. For instance, if you're offered gameplay that is counter to your character, it's okay to sometimes, once in a while, play completely counter to your values, just to generate a new situation that you never thought you would experience with this character. Julian, for instance, if he had not been poisoned, in the example we mentioned before the break, he would never have walked around telling his secrets to people of the village. He would never have been so so open and so without grace because he was playing a nobleman. He was able to experience a whole new side of his character just because he decided to play interestingly.
Yeah, it's this always play the special day. What does that mean?
So always playing the special day is a certain principle where you say, so if you're the silent assassin for 365 days a year, that's great. But that means that every con you visit, you're just sitting there silently in the corner, not being approached by anyone. And in real life, when you LARP, your character only exists 4 or 16 days a year, you know, because you can't go to con every day, you can't LARP every day. So what we try to promote is when you're at con, when you're actually playing this character actively for the few days in the year, we would encourage you to do something special, something different from the character. Everyone knows he's the silent one. He never speaks, but this is the day he speaks, and he has something special to say. Or the knight who was always sad, he gets given a game impulse to be happy for once, and this one time he seems a little less suicidal, and it can be a special moment. It can be a whole new facet of the character that you have never explored, because you've always said to yourself, my character will never talk, my character will never be happy, or my character will never be sad or poor. Another thing can be the nobleman who loses all of his money. You know, it's a whole new aspect of play to engage in.
Yeah, exactly. And where might play consequently actually be also a very bad idea?
Well, playing consequently can often also be a barrier to certain play styles. If you play consequently, of course, you will, as the silent assassin, never speak. If you play consequently, you'll of course never take the dumb route, the stupid route. Like for instance, you have, you would never struggle if you played consequently oftentimes. So Frank, as we talked about, when he was approached, Frank, you gotta come with us. And Frank said, yeah, but I don't have my lantern and my armor and my sword. If he played consequently, he would say, listen, it can't be this serious. You have to wait 1 minute. I'll grab all my gear and we'll be safe. Instead, he played inconsequently. He played interestingly, and he said, I'm going to go into the situation without any of my gear, and I'll do something that's outgame, we would say, overtly stupid. But then again, he was rewarded with very real feelings of fear and anguish and struggle, because he had no light and he had no means of defending himself.
Yeah, the other example would be the example I mentioned in the beginning, when the Heereswacht, which is like the
city guard
of the Tross, when they would throw somebody in jail, the consequent play would be to have him in jail for the rest
or hang him.
Or hanging. So the convention would be over for him. That's it. Or he would have a lot of fun being in jail, all of the time.
And as we know, being in jail is a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know that. Okay. So playing consequently is a fine line to walk. Sure, it's important to give your character depth, but also it can be very bad for gameplay at certain points, and even playing inconsequently sometimes can even be very good for gameplay. So.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to motivate people to just ping pong in between things all the time and be completely untrue to your character. We don't want to motivate that, but we want to say there is definitely value to be had by occasionally straying from your morals or your guidelines to create very exceptional gameplay for yourself and others. So don't always break away from your principles, but sometimes sometimes you can really experience something special if you do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think we covered this very well. One thing Tom brought up from his experiences back in the States with LARPing is what would you say, what is specific about playing to struggle in combat? So what does that mean?
Well, for me, because again, all of these things are not academically specified in any way. It's all very subjective. For instance, let's say you're in a point-based system and you say, I have 40 armor points and 20 life points. I can get hit 60 times with a sword before I die. That could mean that you don't play out any sort of damage at all. If I go into the field with a very powerful character with a lot of armor, where point-wise I may have 20 armor points, but if someone hits me in the knee, I'll pretend like they broke my knee, even though, you know, theoretically you could think the armor would probably stop it, but I'm thinking, I want to reward this. I want to struggle. I'm gonna take a knee. I'm gonna see what my opponent does. Maybe my opponent grabs me, takes me to the floor into an infight, and then we roll around fighting each other. Again, this will lead to more play. You can struggle in combat quite easily. For instance, what I did once as well in combat was I had a pistol, and I sharpened down the release so that when the pistol was supposed to fire, it didn't have enough power to always ignite the cap. So every fourth or fifth time it would go bang. So while my opponent is crawling towards me with his knife in his teeth, I've pulled out the pistol and I know full well that the pistol is not going to fire. And I go click, 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 click. Instead of that, I could have had, of course, a pistol which fires and could have shot the guy immediately. But me struggling with a malfunctioning pistol made my opponent have a crazy cool scene where he then grabs me and stabs me to death. For instance, that's another way of struggling. And struggling is just not playing to win. It's putting yourself knowingly into a dangerous situation.
And it's also about moving slow. Why that?
So taking it slow is something that has to do with a number of things. You can take combat slow, for instance. For instance, we're all fighting with gummy swords, as you like to say, Marcus. You know, they're not real. They don't weigh a lot. So theoretically, I could fight like this, and I could go 1 1 1 1 1 1 1, you know, and hit you 50 times really quickly. But that doesn't look very epic. So if I've got a large weapon, I will try to fight really slow because it's really heavy, and every time I swing the weapon, I try to lift it up. Not because it's really heavy, but because I want to give my opponent the opportunity to dodge my attack, to parry it properly, go to one knee and parry it. For instance, at Sturmwacht, I hit Ollie with my axe really slowly. He saw me, I lifted my axe very slowly, and it gave him enough time to throw himself from a standing position onto his back. And his armor went clang, everyone turned around, they're like, wow, what happened there? And I mean, it was just because, we prepared to do that. He had time to react to my attack. And if you take it slow in combat, you give more opportunity to react. But also in play, if you take it slow, as we talked about in conflict play, I don't know you, we're not friends, I've never played with you, I don't know if you're easily scared out of game, so I'll start my conflict play slow. And if I realize you like it, I can push it up a bit. And if you still like it, I can escalate even further, and we can even get in-game violent, have a brawl. But if I notice, well, okay, this this person doesn't actually want to be in conflict or is not feeling it, I'll just back away. This person doesn't want this gameplay, I won't force it upon them. So taking it slow is quite good. Taking it fast would have been the opposite, just going straight into combat. The other person is completely shocked and maybe even shocked for the whole convention, didn't want it at all.
And it's also like this play to live component of it, which is like in the movies, things happen slower than in real life, because in real life things are most of the time over pretty quickly. So things happen really quickly, and nobody gets to experience the scene that way. So if you slow things down, you know, it gives people more chance to work with what they have or what the scene is doing to them. Okay. We prepared a nice graph, about how to have fun, because having fun and graphs is pretty much the same thing, you know. It's like do we see it actually? Do we see it in the stream?
There you
go. All right. So basically, this is meant to give you an idea why play to struggle is the superior concept to play to win or play to lose, if it's about having fun. Everybody can see that, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so we're having fun with math now. We've definitely gotten to the interesting part of the stream. So we what these graphs illustrate. I'm no mathematician. There's probably going to be a ton of errors. People are going to make fun of it, perhaps even memes. But what it shows us is amount of winning and losing compared to or on a axis of time. So we have the different play styles illustrated. Let's start with play to win, which is something, for instance, I started off with in my LARP career. I started LARP being told, you got to be the best. You got to be the hero. And if you're stupid in-game, well, then you're also stupid out-game. If you make an error, then people get to laugh at you. And it's malicious and it's real. Because why would you do something so stupid? So I would constantly try to win. And I wouldn't always succeed, and that was very frustrating. But once I got to the point where I had enough buddies and enough contacts in game, it was quite easy to win. I had enough resources to power myself to success. But these successes didn't feel like successes anymore, because I was winning in situations that just weren't real, and it kind of got boring. So at first I had the frustration of not being able to succeed, not being able to force myself to success. But then after a while, winning just lost its fun. So that for me was something that I didn't enjoy about playing to always win. Next in my career, I learned about playing to lose. That was when I started with the Undead Flesh, an NPC faction of Mythodea, where I was told there is honor in losing. When you lose, you give other people the chance to be a hero. And to this day, I really still enjoy playing to lose. I've lost all interest in playing to win, but one of my favorite playstyles is still to this day playing to lose, because every time I lost, I could see other people smiling and having a good time. And they would come up to me after the event saying, man, I really enjoyed that. You really made me feel like the champion. The way you died, that was fantastic. And then you instantly start developing a sort of LARP friendship with this person. And you like say stuff to each other like, yeah, next time I want you to win. And you're already planning out the next scenes. That's what I loved about playing to lose, because you can't be angry at someone who's making you the hero. You know, you can't do anything wrong. It's the easiest way to generate positive gameplay is just to lose and be the loser. you can't really do anything wrong.
Yeah, there was a really cool goosebump situation last conquest after the last big battle, when basically the NSCs were all lined up at their respawning point, and now suddenly the battle was over, and all the players suddenly went over there and clapped hands, high-fived and shook hands. That was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, because that's, even though that broke immersion, the players must have just been so overwhelmed with positive emotions towards the NSCs that they just had to say thank you. That happens quite often in Germany at the last battle. At the last battle, it's like the last time you usually see the NPCs. You just want to go up and you want to say thanks for making this a fantastic event, and that's something that Play to Lose just seems to always bring out in people. Just makes players happy. Doesn't mean that they always lose, of course. This graph isn't perfect. Sometimes the NSCs also win. They win battles, and just to bring along the story. Also, make the players sad at some points. Give them some losses so that the wins again feel a little bit better.
They struggle also. That their main objective is at the end they'll lose.
Yeah.
For me, this whole graph is more about what will give you the greater experience. Is it the roller coaster you go, or is it simply driving a straight road? Doesn't matter if it leads downhill or uphill. For me, the roller coaster is definitely the thing that gives you the more bang for the buck. Let's put it like this. Yeah.
There's another type of play, and we got some critique for because it's unengaged play. We called it. It's the blue line that just goes between winning and losing. That's not correctly done, really, because unengaged play is pretty much also playing without a principle, playing without a certain goal in mind, without playing to win or playing to lose. It's just riding along, see what happens, engages you, and see what you want to play with. Jokingly, we called it play to eat sausage. Last stream.
This graph is not there to imply what is like good LARPing, what's bad LARPing, or something like that. It's just to show how we think you will get the most fun out of an event. But you can also do the other things if you think that's better for you, or if probably it is better for you indeed. Because the roller coaster ride is a bit too much adrenaline. That's fair enough. And no problem. Everything should be possible at an event.
Yeah. So if you want to, as some comments said last time, just play to have fun or play to play, that's fine. But if at some point you think, I've been playing for 15 years, like Frank Steingass, and I'm sort of looking for something new, maybe this is something for you. Maybe this is a challenge that you can get into. And our final type of play, have a drink, is play to struggle, where you see this zigzagging green line which seems to be going all over the place. To people who know what TV tropes is, this may seem similar to the hero's journey, because every high is followed by a low, and every low is followed by a high, and they come at varying intensities, as does the hero journey. That is typical to TV shows, movies, books, mythology. It's the way stories are spun. And if you want to play to struggle, what we want to show here with this graph is playing to struggle doesn't mean that you lose all the time, as play to lose would imply. It means every time you win, every time you're at the peak, the king has finally gotten his scepter, then he becomes an outlaw, or he gets killed. every time you you meet your teacher, your mentor, it would be kind of good if you get astrayed from him, or your mentor turns out to be the bad guy. So every high should be followed by a low, and every low by a high, just so that you have this this interchange. It doesn't feel boring. You're on this roller coaster, as you said.
Yeah,
it's a good way of putting it.
Exactly.
Doesn't get boring.
So you usually you rather are on the, if you're looking for a great experience, you rather are on the roller coaster than on the straight road, simply driving, you know.
Yeah.
That's how I would put it. Okay. Question to the director's crew. Do we go for another break, or?
We can do a break, maybe ask for some questions in chat, and then we'll address the last questions, and then talk about COVID, and maybe have a little chat about thoughts for next year.
Okay. So we will go into another break. After the break, we will discuss all the questions you put into the chat. Please feel free to ask questions, and we will show you a bit what we are struggling with at the moment. We are working with several measures on how to make our events Corona safe, and we bought some toys to find out how this feels and what we need to work on. See you after the break. Hello, here we are again with SKALD TV, Mythodea Insider tonight. With me is Lester and me, Markus. We will be dealing with questions from the audience now. So there is this user called Wisedora Ruff. Is that?
It's a manly name.
Yeah, I think it's a bearded guy.
Probably.
Like some beard.
Are you expecting beard?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So Ruth, hello Ruth, says.
Oh, this was a joke.
Yeah, that was a dad joke.
Okay.
Like,
I see.
Do that sometimes.
Thanks for explaining.
Okay. So Ruth wants to know from you, what was your most likely she knows that, yeah. What was your most epic struggle experience? Do you care to share that, Lester?
It's like
That was
saying,
an order from an immediate superior.
Jawohl!
Yeah.
As we would say in German. It's like saying what's your favorite movie, or what's your favorite moment in your whole life. It's impossible really to say, but one of my most epic experiences was probably again with Ateron, where I openly pretty much was playing with a lot of secrets, which were turned against me. For instance, I was playing a closet homosexual, but I was often trying to play that out. If players were asking why I was so sad, I would tell them I am a knight. I can't actively be homosexual. I have to, of course, try to find a female partner, and this irks me quite much, and this breaks me, and I was often playing with the hopelessness of this character. Another situation which was similar to that, which also gave me great pleasure in playing with this strugglesome experience, was at Al-Bacha, which was a Oriental style con, where I played a foreigner in a foreign land with very foreign values, and I openly managed to become a slave to a group of traders they bought me on a market, and I could have gotten out of that situation, but I decided I would like to struggle, and I cut myself off from my group, and I pretty much put my character's story into their hands. And thank you very much, Jascha Brandes and Florian and all the other people in your group for not exploiting it too much, but making me struggle and taking away a lot of my character's privileges that he would usually have enjoyed. That was also a very magical and interesting, adventurous time for me. Yeah, I saw a problem, and I decided I would openly commit to it immediately. I think those are my two favorite experiences with playing to struggle.
Okay, so now Mike is Krieg asks, is it possible to show up by yourself to Conquest and get a lot out of the game? Should I find a group to be a part of beforehand? Could I volunteer to be an NPC for the event? If I were not affiliated with any groups, would my costume have to fit anything culturally specific?
Wow, that's a lot of questions, huh?
All right, let's start with the first one. Is it possible to show up by yourself to Conquest and get a lot out of the game?
That's definitely possible. Some people do it. I've been to cons in Germany, also just by myself, and I had quite an interesting experience. I learned, I met a lot of new people. But at Conquest it's also very easy to find a group. You can affiliate yourself with a bunch of different factions on player side or NPC side. They're all very helpful in integrating you. We're also going to be offering a new player experience where you can be pretty much led into the world of Mythodea. But there are also a bunch of factions that will help you into the game, even if you didn't find one beforehand. There's tribes who are playmakers, whose sole goal is to pretty much bring you closer to the plot, immersify you more in the lore. There are themed camps like Ateron, or there will be the Crimson Company, which will also have this as their goal to advertise you in and to keep you in play with them. We have many mechanics like these.
The Crimson Company is a thing we specifically designed for international players. Is that true?
True. Actually, I forgot to say that. The Crimson Company is a very plot-heavy faction in Mythodea that we will establish for the next Conquest, if we can, of course, organize it. And it will be English themed. So, of course, you can also speak German there. You can also join it as a German, but the main language of play in the Crimson Company will be English, so that we can ensure that it can be a hub for international players. As an international player, you don't have to be part of the Crimson Company, but it's something we want to offer.
Yeah, exactly. So next question is, or in that series of questions, should I find a group or to be a part of beforehand? That could work, but you don't have to. It's nothing. I think it works very fine. You showing up there, going to the Crimson Company, or having the beginner experience, or talking to
just going anywhere. If you want to find a fight, Conquest has fights for you. If you want to find a magical plot, go to the Mages Guild. You know, if you want to learn alchemy, go to the Alchemy Guild, or search for people who seem to be openly doing alchemy. If you're looking for knights, look for knights. If you're looking for a large group of knights, look for Ateron. You know, it depends what you want to experience, but Conquest, that's one of the really good things about Conquest, because it's such a melting pot. It really offers everything, and you get what you see. If you see knights, you get knights. So
and you quickly will find a group to affiliate with, because there are so many, and they're always looking for, or most of them are always looking for new members. And
yeah, I think so.
They're very open and
Yeah, those were always my experiences. When I had friends coming from abroad playing, they would always say that it's very open, and most people in Germany speak quite good English. It's definitely an effort community-wide to integrate the people who take such a long journey upon themselves to get to Germany and bring all their equipment. We really value international players coming around, so for me it's very special to engage with players who come from abroad.
Now, Mike, that wasn't about you taking too much time. It was just about him not being able to memorize all the questions. It's like, all fine, ask all the questions. Can you go back up, Tom? Back up. Could I volunteer to be an NPC for the event?
No. Sorry.
That is a lie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know why.
No, I'm only kidding, Mike. Of course you can volunteer to be an NSC. That's how I entered Mythodea, as an NSC. You can just pretty much write in the group, Conquest of Mythodea, it's the largest group we have on Facebook. You can just write, hey, I'm new, I would like to be an NPC of the Undead Flesh, or a Skagen, or Black Ice, or Pestilence, or Army of Doubt. I just want to be one of the NPCs. I think they're really cool. Someone's gonna answer you immediately, a player or an admin, and tell you who the responsible person is, who your coach will be, and they'll tell you what you need. They'll facilitate you with the guide you'll need to play the background, the lore. They'll tell you what you need minimally to play. They'll try to help you find deals, which are rebated products, things that you can buy for less money. As an NPC, we try to always facilitate our NPCs with the minimum
special deals.
Minimum amount of garb. We try to help them out, give them good deals on that. So yeah, if you're a player from abroad and you want to play an NPC, that's definitely possible. We definitely encourage that. We have complete foreign groups within our NPCs. We have the Swiss Undead Flesh characters who
the Danish.
We have the Danish. We have a lot of Danish among the Skagen, which are our Northmen. We have a whole group of Skagen that just speak English. The Nordur, who are a sort of very wild type of Skagen. We have a lot of people from abroad playing our NPCs, and we actively encourage it.
And the big NSC factions like the Black Eyes or the Undead Flesh or the Skagen, they always have so you could even show up there without having anything. They would provide you with some leftover equipment and stuff. So this is a thing they do, and is a thing that is actually available.
Yeah, I mean, that's true what Markus says. There's a lot of community feeling, and people try to help each other out. Of course, it wouldn't be great if you turned up with nothing, but even if you did, I think your fellow NPCs would try to make it work.
Exactly. That's what I want to
say. Try to show up with the minimum amount, which really isn't much. You can usually attain it with €100 and 1 or 2 hours of hand stitching. You'll be good. But generally, you have a lot of people trying to help you out, and that's great about the community.
And the last question from Mike is, if I were not affiliated with any group, would my costume have to fit anything culturally specific? I would say this is just like general, if it fits like Dungeons and Dragons style fantasy medieval scenario, you're right there. This will work. So anything that you can get away with as looking medieval, that will work.
Yeah, pretty much that. And if you decide you want to be part of any sort of faction, NSC or player faction, and they specifically tell you we want to be knights that are stylistically allocated around 11th century England, then definitely try to follow their example. Or if it's, for instance, the Black Ice and they tell you we want to be black paladins, then try to also fit that. But if you're just a player, you're unaffiliated, you want to play some sort of barbarian, whatever, do it. But try to stick with fantasy and don't arrive in a post-apocalyptic kit or
or as a Star Trek red shirt or something like that.
This
that
is something that Marcus did at Conquest.
Yeah, unessential employee, that is. Yeah. Okay, that's this guy Ninja Meister again. What's wrong with that guy? Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. How can you tell who is the right player to struggle with? Thank you, Hilmar.
Again, all of this is subjective. All of these things are just pointers from our experience design group that we've gathered over the years. For me personally, how to tell who I can struggle with is based on a number of factors. And then you go through these factors and you try to apply them. So the first thing I go by is I wonder, what con is this? Where am I? If this is a Nordic LARP con, I know that playing to struggle is the thing to do. Like, everyone here wants to experience pain and loss all the time, so that the highs and lows between winning and losing are so extreme, you know? At Nordic LARP, you want to experience extreme stuff. There's very little that is taboo. So you're signing up for this from the get-go. Okay, Conquest, Mythodea, that's not Nordic LARP. Next thing you can look for is there an age restriction or a trigger warning to your LARP? And for instance, we have one LARP which is a little bit more extreme than our regular, PG-13 LARPs, which is Sturmwacht. That's an 18 plus con. So if you go there, you can definitely expect that the people going there, they want to be a little bit more hands-on. So there's a higher percentage chance that the people are adult and ready for more extreme experiences.
So the content you would play would be more stuff you wouldn't play with your 8-year-old.
Yeah, and you can definitely
more violence,
a little bit more violence,
more struggle, more pain.
Yeah. So you can probably guess that the people going to Sturmwacht, there's a higher likelihood that they would be open to struggle. It doesn't mean that everybody there wants to struggle, but there's a likelihood. Again, you have to judge by the person and the situation. Lastly, if you go to Mythodea, don't necessarily, the Conquest, don't necessarily expect that people want to struggle, because it's a more open and less dark con most of the time. Again, this doesn't mean that people don't want to struggle. It really depends on the situation and the person you're dealing with. Another factor for me is, do I know the person? Have I fought this person before on the battlefield? Have I had social interaction? Am I perhaps OT friends with this guy over years? The more I know a person, the more likely they're able to react to my impulses and to my struggle. So if it's my best buddy, I know I can do whatever I want. They'll play along with me. I know that because, we have a deep connection. If I've only met them once or twice, I'll be a bit more careful about, how intense of a play to struggle I'll offer them. If I don't know them at all, I'll take it really slow. I'll start, with minor verbal aggression perhaps, and if I notice that person really is not interested, I'll quit it. I'll leave. If that person doesn't seem, if that person escalates with me, replies, perhaps I take it up a notch. And if I'm really unsure, maybe I'll use an out-game command, like for instance, "Oh mother, would you like this situation to escalate a bit further?" Again, only if you're really unsure, use a command like that, and that can help you sometimes. And if the struggle has gone really too far, you know, you weren't sure, you've escalated very rapidly, and you feel like someone's very uncomfortable, there's no shame in just saying, hey man, you doing okay? I'm really sorry, I feel like I've taken this too far. I feel like you're uncomfortable, and I feel like this isn't gameplay for you anymore. Are you okay? It's okay to do that sometimes.
Yeah, all right. Mip Bip Blap says, what to do if you are shy and can't really play to struggle because you would be the center of the attention for a while. So, what to do about that?
That's difficult. That's really difficult. I have a friend. He I think he was 8 when I started LARP, and his dad's a police operations. I don't know, handler, whatever. He coordinates police things, you know. So he's a tough guy, and he brings his son along. His son sort of grew up at Drachenfest, and he was saying, I would like to be in center stage, but I'm really shy. And you know, for us, it was kind of easy because we just thought, you know what, that's not a problem for us. You know, we'll just push you up, we'll lift you. You know, we will play to lift you, extremely so, to give you that confidence that you need when you're shy. So we had this moment where we took the little guy and we put him on a throne, and it was 50 of us, and there was one guy, he wanted something from the group, and he was made to talk to the boy. And the boy was a little bit shy, but every time the boy would say something, everyone would say, yes, yes, he wills it. And every time the grown-up man would try to say, like, you're just a boy, you know, what can you tell me? We would silence the man. We would say, you must respect him. He is sitting on the throne. You are down here in the dirt. You will listen to what he says. And then you give him a break. You give him time. You give him space. You let him relax. And then he speaks. And the more you do this, the more comfortable the shy person, in this case, felt. Of course, you can't force someone into center stage, or you can't force someone to have these struggles or whatever. You can't do that, but you can find ways of making it a bit easier, you know. For instance, when you see someone who's very shy, you start struggling slowly, you know. You start aggressively towards them, and then you realize, okay, they're a bit shy, they don't like this. You turn it around. All of a sudden, you start to play as if the other person is intimidating you, you know? Like, okay, you're shy, I'm the street brawler, I come up to you, I push you, and I say, these are my streets, and then the other person just seems a little bit perplexed, and then instead of just beating them to the ground, you start playing, oh, okay, no, I didn't know who you were, you know, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Can you forgive me? And then, you know, you give them the option to, you know, you give them space, room, confidence to play against you again, to struggle with you. Yeah. These are some tricks I would try to employ to just try to lift people who are shy. Try to give them the time, room, and comfort to really take the center stage and to struggle.
Yeah. This is a bit, so it breaks down to 3 points. First of all, yeah, sure, everybody should always just go as far as he or she feels comfortable with. Yeah. Second, if you have good play to lift people around you, they will realize what's going on and will help you get center stage, you know, and will make you forget. Mareike said that, where she said, good lifters, great lifters make you forget your shyness. Yeah,
that's true.
And the third thing is that LARP is also a way to deal with exactly this issue, and realizing it's just a simulated situation. It's a play, yeah. and you loosening your handbrake in your head will have no consequences, you know. So it might give you that this little step you need, or this little push you need probably to overcome that. And this is why LARP is so great, because it basically helps you deal with things you would never try out in real life. But in LARP you can try them out without suffering the real consequences of them.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that I didn't mention. You know, anytime you feel shy, just throw yourself in there, because the worst thing that could ever happen is you just say, okay, this is too much for me, I don't want to do this anymore. That's, you know, you can always go out of a situation. I mean, it's not always pretty, you know, sometimes you want to get out in-game by saying, oh mother, this is too much for me. But if it really is too much, you can just really stand up and say, I'm out, this is too much. So even if you're shy, theoretically, you can throw yourself into the most dangerous situations, full knowing that you're safe.
Yeah, exactly. So I hope this answered this question. One question Tom brought up, and I'm not sure whether I understood it right, but probably you have an idea about this. He said, what does play to struggle mean and play to lift mean in regards of costuming?
So, for instance, well, play to lift, for instance, when it comes to costuming, can be well, one element can be connected to the other. So, if you dress as a king and you want to be regarded as a king, you should definitely have followers. You should have squires. You should have people who lift you. Of course, you have to have these people to lift you to this role. Otherwise, you'll approach
it's part of that concept. We call it can, should, must.
Yeah.
So the must rules. So you have can rules, you have should rules, and you have must rules. The must rules are mostly about regulatory things, but like law enforcement kind of relevant things, yeah. But it's about this WYSIWYG style of playing. So there is no rules. So you don't have points. You don't have anything like that. You
can do what you represent.
You can do what you represent.
Yeah. So yeah, in a way, your costuming can predict the way you will play, or you should play to fit this role. So if you wear a king's costume, you should definitely have the people to lift you as a king. People should play you up. But if you, for instance, wear rags and tatters, you can definitely expect to struggle, because, well, you're dressed as a beggar. People will treat you like a beggar. So,
basically, by your costume, you're sending already cues to the other players how they will play with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the most important thing, because the gameplay is always what you and your fellow players make out of it. But it's an interesting thing that Tom mentioned. Your costume definitely sets a tone. So the beggar probably going to struggle. The guy with the ugly scar in his face, maybe not so trustworthy. That will definitely set some struggle elements. Yeah, and if of course you want to play a high role, like a king, you'll definitely need people to lift you. Otherwise, people won't believe you're a king. The king without his followers, or the knight without his followers, just is not a king or a knight. You just don't believe it. So you want to play these characters, you'll definitely need to utilize play to lift.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So okay. So I think this is it for tonight. We talked a lot about different play styles that are incorporated into our gameplay. So it was play to struggle, play to lose, play to lift, serious gaming, play for drama, and consequent play. Why is it a good thing in general, but can also be a bad thing if done wrong? If you guys want to rewatch that, you can find this for a couple of days on Twitch, but after that, tomorrow or latest in 2 days, it will be uploaded to YouTube on our YouTube channel, SKALD TV. Thank you for watching tonight. Thank you, Lester, for being here.
Thanks.
And we see you tomorrow with a German stream. It's called The Impact. It's about the educational aspect of LARP. Our guest will be Lars and Kasper. I'm really looking forward to that because he's a great guy and he's a lot to talk about the educational aspect of LARP. Have a good night, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and stay along because after the stream we will also show an outtake video, a special kind of video. Tom is really looking forward to this one. Bye bye. Thank you very much.
See you guys.